Namaste, welcome to Atharva Forum. This conversation today is with a truly amazing scholar of natural sciences in Sanskrit. Professor Rangachar Narayana Iyengar is a polymath. He hails from Mysore in the state of Karnataka, and he has done extensive academic research in engineering seismology and taught at India's premier institution, the Indian Institute of Science at Bengaluru. He is fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering, Indian Academy of Science, National Academy of Science, and Alexander von Humboldt Foundation in Germany. He was also a Raja Ramana Fellow at the Department of Atomic Energy between 2005 and 10. He has also held many other prestigious positions. Professor Iyengar was brought up in a family of traditional Sanskrit scholars. Professor Iyengar received initial training in Sanskrit studies in the traditional Pathshala method. This has propelled him to become an avid reader of ancient texts in the original, and maybe that is what has made him a polymath with an abiding interest in the study of India's astronomical observations from the ancient past. Professor Rangachar Narayana Iyengar is now the director at the Center for Ancient History and Culture at Jain University in Bengaluru. Professor RNI has been doing some of the most influential work in recent times on the history of astronomy of ancient India, and he's probably the pre-eminent scholar on natural sciences in Sanskrit texts. The question could be asked, why is his work so foundational and important? Professor R.N. Iyengar's research work has shed much needed new light on the past and will significantly contribute to understanding the astronomical tradition and growth of knowledge in India prior to what is called the Siddhantic period. Professor R.N.'s research work fills to a large extent the gap between the Vedic period, that is pre-2500 BCE, and the Aryabhata-Siddhanta period, which is 500 of the Common Era. Professor R.N. Iyengar's research work shows the growth and evolution of observational astronomy and creation of empirical knowledge in Bharat. Ancient Hindus were empirical scientists, and they documented a lot of information, developed theories and ideas, and laid the groundwork for future discoveries. There are three important issues which we will discuss in this conversation with Professor Iyengar over two episodes. First, he will discuss the enormous observational astronomical information in the Vedic tradition, which then refutes the claim that there was hardly any observational astronomy. Second, he'll be detailing the uniqueness of the tradition and shows the indigenous development in works like Parashara Tantra. And the third aspect is the continuity of scientific naturalism from the Vedas onwards, passing through the Brahmanda Purana, Parashara Tantra, and Ruddhagargiya Jyotishya, and into the Siddhantic period. Professor Iyengar's amazing research work has now shed light on this trove of knowledge and provided tremendous insights into the history of astronomy in India. Now, we will talk to Professor Rangachar Narayana Iyengar. Yeah, please subscribe to Atharva Forum and support this channel. Thank you.
Om Idannama Rishibhya Purvajebhya Purvebhya Patikrudbhyaha.
Professor, welcome, and thank you very much for giving us the time today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the Atharva Forum, for inviting me for this talk.
Thank you. We are the ones who are lucky here. Sir, you had started off with the Purvebhyaha. Generally, in Sanskrit tradition, we sometimes know very little about the scholars themselves. However, we want to use this opportunity to know a little bit more about how you got your earlier education in the Sanskrit tradition and then your early work related to civil engineering. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I come from a very orthodox family from Mysore. We were originally from Tamil Nadu, but the kings of Mysore, it is said about 4 generations back, they invited us an agraharam near Mysore. Maybe due to the scholarship of my forefathers, not so much of me. Then, that is how we started. I don't know much about them other than my grandfather, I know quite well. He was a very well-known person in Mysore for his pious life and astrology. He was a very good astrologer in Mysore. My father was professor of Sanskrit in Mysore University, and we didn't need any special encouragement for us to study Sanskrit. It was there already everywhere, all over the house. So my parents decided I should learn something traditional also. So they sent me to the nearby Pathshala. That way I was lucky because Mysore has a very big Sanskrit college. In those days, it was, you know, beaming with people, full of people, students, elders, all kinds of pandits, I'm talking of the 50s, 1953 to 58 kind of thing. That is the period when which I studied there in the morning. And in the afternoon actually after 11 o'clock, I would go to the school, to the high school, and then completed my studies like that. Then I joined engineering in Mysore itself. Then I had to discontinue the Sanskrit education, but it has been with me. I have picked it up here and there even later after I went to Bangalore at the Indian Institute of Science, because there were people in Bangalore who are very good scholars in Sanskrit. I would go to them and learn something in the evening. That is how I have kept my contact with the language and the culture and our tradition.
You also said you used in your introduction, you used the line Nava Navonmesha Shalini Prajna Buddhi. So I
That's
presume that comes from the Sahitya tradition, Alankara tradition that you studied.
Yeah. I had a teacher in the Sanskrit college. I have referred to him also, Ramabhadracharya. So he was the man who would say, ask all these questions and then say, what is the definition of this? What is the definition of that? And then he introduced me to this kind of thinking. So I owe a lot for my thinking to my teachers at the Sanskrit college, more than in my other colleges. It is to them I owe because they put a new spirit in me in my younger days itself and introduced me to the country, that is to India, not in terms of physical geography or in terms of the history of the kings as it would be done in the school education, but in a different way, like describing the nature, describing Raghuvamsha, how India is described in Raghuvamsha, in Kalidasa, like Astyuttarasyam Dishi Devatatma, Himalayo Nama Nagadi Rajaha, Purva Parautoya Nidivagahyau, Sitah Prithivya Iva Manadandaha. That Manadanda is such a fantastic word. So it makes, then of course I didn't understand many of this, but later when I reflect on this, made me that there is something very deep, very great, extraordinarily important for us to understand, protect, and spread as much as possible to the youngsters.
And that's one of the things that you mentioned. Even in the olden days, all the scholars, they knew multiple areas. They knew Sahitya, they knew the astronomy, they knew multiple languages. These days, that kind of a varied knowledge is less. You go get some degree in one area, you kind of stay there. You have very little understanding of the bigger picture. Can you tell us, sir, how then, of course, you did work on civil engineering, you were at the premier institution of India, Indian Institute of Science. Can you explain that journey, please?
Yeah, sure. See, in my earlier days in Indian Institute of Science, we had started a Samskrita Sangha also, where in the evening we would teach little bit of Sanskrit. So I had a few students there also. But with time, that was not possible. That was possible when I was a bachelor. So later on, it was not possible. But IASC had, even now, I think it has, group of people who are interested in Sanskrit. That is in Indian science, so to say. So that culture was kept up like that. But my own interest was in earthquakes, what I worked on in IASC. So, earthquake hazard mapping, mathematical analysis of earthquake accelerograms, and things like that. Now, you remember there was an earthquake in India in 1993 called the Kilari earthquake.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean that
Kil-
there was Latour and
Latu. There have been earthquakes even previously, the Koyana earthquake. But Koina earthquake, people did not take it so seriously. But Latur earthquake, it was a devastating earthquake because the large number of deaths due to that. So in those days, after every earthquake, there would be a commission of inquiry, why this happened, why that happened, and all that, you know. So there are not many people who are working in the area of earthquake engineering or engineering seismology, as would one call it. So the government of India had a commission established who came to a very important town and institution to ask what work is happening in this area, why there has been so much of damage, what is our view about it, and all that. Well, to cut this story short, there was a American guy in the group in the commission. So foreigners were also there, and he asked, "You people claim there is so much of culture in your country, so 3,000 years, 4,000 years. What is the history of earthquakes that you are having? Do you have any records on ancient earthquakes? Does your Vedas or the scriptures talk about earthquakes? Has anybody looked into that? Because it is only with the past earthquakes that we can know the future. See, it is the hazard which I have to map that depends on what happened in the past. And with the earthquakes, there is an important thing that where the previous earthquake occurred, it is prone for an earthquake even later. Or if today an earthquake occurs in a particular place, it should have occurred there some 1,000 years back or whatever. So it is the punarjanma for earthquakes, that is how it happens. Now, hazard mapping is a very important area where earthquakes up to 1,000 years, 2,000 years are organized and the acceleration diagrams are drawn because how much force which comes on the structure is what is important. Well, anyway, we were all on the other side sitting. We just blinked. We could not answer anything. Nobody knew anything on that. But I knew that in Brihat Samhita there was a chapter, but I was not confident to say what is there and how it is and all that. So I went back and started looking into Brihat Samhita. That is how I started. Now, Brihat Samhita happens to be a wonderful book, no doubt, but it is not original. There is no originality about earthquakes or rainfall in that text. I was surprised. And all what is given there, he himself says. See, Varahamihira is not a plagiarist. He quotes people who were before him extensively. So he quotes Garga and Parashara as the authority for earthquakes, for rainfall, for eclipses, for comets, and for so many other things, which was not known to me and which was not known to others either. What happens in India, if you talk about ancient science, they will say, okay, Varahamihira is a wonderful scientist, and Bharat Samhita is the best book. And that is studied in the university colleges and in the Sanskrit universities. Very unfortunate because you have to go back that. Varahamihira was only in 6th century. And Parashara and Vriddhagarga, when were they? That was my first question. If Parashara, I have to see earthquakes are ascribed to Parashara, the time of Parashara he indirectly gives as when the winter solstice occurred, it is said, he says. Varahamihira doesn't say directly it is so. He says it is said in the older Shastras at once upon a time winter solstice occurred in Dhanishta Nakshatra. That's all what he said.
For our viewers, I think we'll probably need to give a little bit of background. One of the things is related to explaining this, right? When the Nishta was, how does that work? So you are looking at this topic, what is really archaeoastronomy, how the skies were, right? So what happens is, of course, everybody, most people who will watch this video will know that the Earth rotates, then the Earth revolves around the Sun, and then also there's a slight wobble of the Earth. They may or may not know that. So can you give that little background? And so how, using that earlier statement on archaeoastronomy, how to look at text, and then we can go back to the
Yeah.
details
Yeah,
on
okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay. No, in fact, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, we come to know about the nakshatra not exactly by Varahamihira. People have conflated all these things. We come to know about it from 10th century Bhattotpala. So Bhattotpala says, he has given all the details and he says it is by Parashara. I had to get into that, and this Ballalasena says, Parashara Kale Swakalikam Ritu Krama Maha, he says. That is, of the time of Parashara, he says. And how was this done was my question. In those days, in the Siddhantic astronomy text, you talk about Ayanamsha and Ayana Chalana, that is the solstices moving. So I knew that it was combined with precision of the equinoxes. So precision of the equinoxes is an important topic, and that is actually originally connected with the cycles rotation of Earth. We know that there are three rotational cycles. One is the diurnal cycle. The second one is the annual cycle in which Earth moves around the sun. The third one is the slow wobble. Like atop the Earth's axis, actually the north-south axis, it slowly rotates about the pole, about the north celestial pole. When that happens, in the slow movement, different stars come into picture in the northern direction. That is the pole stars. Now, during the time of Varahamihira or others, this would have induced a secondary slow movement on the Ayana. Ayana means the solstice points, the stars which were there at the solstice points. So the two are interconnected. The primary reason is the axial rotation. Secondary effect is the shifting of the solstices or the equinoxes. Generally called, called the precession of equinoxes nowadays. That happens to solstices also. And the original reason is about the pole star. This happens as, suppose I say the whole thing is about 360 degrees. 1 degree of variation occurs in about 72 years. So for 360-degree variation, that is a one full cycle, it takes about 26,000 years. So for a full cycle, that is today in the solstice, let me say in Varahamihira's time, it was in some nakshatra, Purvashada or so. 26,000 years later, it would be in the same nakshatra. 26,000 years before also, it would be in the same nakshatra. That is the rough meaning. So when I knew that Parashara's time was when the winter solstice was at Dhanishta nakshatra, one could easily go back and calculate at the rate of 1 degree per 72 years. So the difference between Dhanishta and Purvashada is known. Each nakshatra is about 13 degrees. Nakshatra variation, it takes about 950 years or something like that. This is the key in understanding ancient chronology, because the ancient chronology is very slow, that is very long. And unless the long term variations are established, it is not possible to understand. Suppose I claim that we are 5,000 years old. We can't do it in any other manner because eclipses repeat. So many eclipses happen. So many planets come into the cycles. So many nakshatras are seen. But this is the key in which you can, it's a very slow cycle. Nevertheless, you can do it. Approximately first fix up. Then you go into the details, make a better estimate of the date. That is the principle in archaeoastronomy.
Absolutely. I think for our viewers, right, I think many of us live in the cities these days. We don't step out and see the skies. But the idea is that in the olden days, of course, they didn't have all the light pollution, so they could step out. The sky played a very important part. And then you could see the sun moving, it rises at various points. And so on December 21st, it's the southeast point, and then again northeast point during the summer solstice. So they were able to keep track, and for each one there's a nakshatra, a constellation. Just before the sun rises, there's a constellation. You can see that. So that was kept track of, and that changes, and so we can really understand how much time has progressed. So what you are saying is, even before, however, from your works, we know that even the Vedic tradition, they had to kind of look at the sky. They had to decide upon the time for the yajna. For the most part, most people think that Vedas are just about the yajna. But there's a lot of other things, all the Vedangas, one of which is, of course, the Jyotishshastra. So can you tell us about that, sir? Let's start at the very beginning, which is the Jyotishshastra, which is the Vedas, what is there in the Veda and the Vedanga and the Vedic text, so that we can see this progression from the Vedic times on to Parashara and Rudragata and then on to Varaha.
Yeah. See, when we go into the Vedas, either we had to go back chronologically, that's in the reverse chronological order, or we had to come back from the Vedas, from the most ancient time to the present time. These are the two ways. Now, since you started from the present time, that is, I would say, Varahmihira, or so the common era, I will go back in the same way. So you go before common era, that is before, let us say, Kautilya's Arthashastra or something of that kind. There are not many texts which are available for us, which I can call hardcore astronomy, like Aryabhata or even Brihat Samhita, I cannot call it. You know, the culture has been oral. Everything what was transmitted, written down perhaps in some manner, after the Brahmi script came into picture, maybe from about Buddha's time, let us say 5th century BC. Now, before 5th century BC, what was there was the question. Now, the Vedas are very ancient. Whether it is 2000 BC, 3000 BC, 5000 BC is another issue. But they are too ancient. Hence, what was the way that knowledge was transmitted for nearly 3000 years till Buddha's time? That is a very big issue. And then these were recorded on palm leaf manuscripts, or in somewhere they were done, transmitted, they have come to us today. So when I talk of Vriddhagarga or Parashara, I have to talk in terms of that only. Those books, as they are the paper, the palm leaf, they are all very recent. They are only 500 years old. The ink, it's all very recent. But the information in it is very ancient. So somebody should have seen those things and transmitted it orally. Then somebody has recorded it as very, very important, as sacred or very important for future generations. Even in the Vedas, it is like that. The Vedic people saw something. They made it into the mantras or whatever, and they transmitted it to their students orally. And that tradition has been kept up in the country to this day. Now, if you see how old it might have been, again we have to go to the precision of the equinoxes. That gives me anchor, or I can say point with which I can step up. It is not of the equinoxes, but it is of what the Vedic people observed. Whether the Vedic people were observing the equinoxes like the solstices like Varahmihira. In fact, Siddhantic time, it is the equinox which was observed. Even today, we observe more the equinox because the New Year starts somewhere near the equinox. Whereas the solstices are older. Older than the solstices was the pole star. That is the key. So it is the pole star which the Vedic people observed. In other words, they were observing the sky. As you very rightly mentioned, they were observing the sky, the sunrise from south, going from not only east to west, but also north to south. So if you see in the Vedas, it is the north to south movement of sun, which has been described in greater detail. Because as you would see, day-to-day thing is routine. Rising in the east, setting in the, everybody knows that. But they were curious about how that is happening. Then they got hold of the issue that sun has another movement, at least visibly, from north to south and south to north. These are the things which come up in the Asyavamiya Sukta in the Rigveda's first mandala. That there are three kinds of Trinabhi Yutaha Chakram, it comes. The wheel has three centers, it comes like that. Now, this third center, what is it, is the big question. There are no direct answers for that. except in the Taittirīyāraṇyaka, there is a mantra which describes a northern constellation. See, when people look at the sky, as the poets, they would like to describe, that is, sing about what they see. Now, it is the eastern thing, it was mostly about sun, moon. Whereas if you see the northern sky in those days, it seems they were attracted by a fixed constellation. That fixed constellation was called Sishumara. That Sishumara is what today we call Draco. So this Sishumara constellation has 14 stars, and the 14th star.
Yeah, just to say, the Sishumara is on the top in the north
In
pole.
the north, correct.
So when we step out and look at the sky in the night, we can see this whole celestial sky turning, right, over a period of time. And then right next in the north pole area, where you find Draco, which is the Sishumara constellation.
Not today.
Not today. Okay.
Yeah. Today you see Ursa Minor with Polaris as the pole star. Draco is below that. It is a very extended constellation if you see it today. It doesn't look like a dragon, but it looks more like a serpent or a lizard. These were the words which are used for it in the medieval times by the astronomers also. It was called the lizard constellation by the Arabic astronomers. And in India also it was called by different names. But Sishumara was the word in the Vedic period. That was remembered. Let us understand this. It is a question of memory. Our culture is a memory of the community. It's a community memory. And it is that community memory of the sky which binds us together even to this day. That is the key Vedic message to be given as far as astronomy is concerned. So in the Taittirīyāraṇyaka, Bhuva Prapadye, then it goes like that. Dharmo Murdhanam Uttarahanuhu. It comes as Vishnu Hridayam. It comes like that. Samvatsara Prajananam, Tata Indra, Tata Agnihi, Tata Prajapatihi, Tata Abhayam Chaturtham, it comes. The fourth at the end of the tile is called Abhaya. Now, the further mantra says, the same text, Divya Shakwaraha Shishumaraha. This is a Divya, that is a celestial Shakwara, an animal called Shishumara. And it says Dhruva Kshitihi, Dhruva Stitihi, Dhruva Stvamasi, Bhutanam, Dhruvamasi. It goes like that. That is a mantra which says you are fixed. All people go around you, all creation goes around you. And that is the mantra which is used in Hindu marriages. The Dhruva Darshana is done. That is, the bride is shown the Dhruva, and the same mantra has to be uttered by the husband. And she should say, yes, I have seen. That means you remain fixed. In my house, that is in the in-laws house, so to say, in the marital house, fixed. Like a pole from earth to Dhruva. Like Dhruva is fixed, you remain fixed. All others go around you. So it is an empowerment mantra which has taken from the Veda. The same mantra is used even today. But which star they see is another matter. Whether the original Dhruva, was it visible, is the question. Now, that is where the whole astronomy comes into picture. Now, it is known that Taittirīyāraṇyaka is a part of Krishna Yajurveda. Yajurveda is supposed to be later than Rig Veda. Now, if Yajurveda, this Taittirīyāraṇyaka, knew a pole star, what happened to that pole star? Is it fixed? When was that? Today, that star is called Thuban. That is the international name, Alpha Draconis. Thuban is actually a Persian word, most probably an apabhramsha of Dhruva, most probably. Anyway, now if you see the Vedic corpus, Taittirīyāraṇyaka says it is fixed, Dhruva. The word Dhruva means fixed. Dhruva can mean a fixed house, it can mean a fixed tree, it can mean a fixed hill. But in the celestial context, when it is the sky, what does it mean? It has to be a star. It cannot be anything else. So even the Puranas, which come later, Brahmanda Purana, Vishnu Purana, they talk of a story, Uttanapada and his son Dhruva. And you know the story of Dhruva. Every child is supposed to know the story of Dhruva. And Vishnu gives the bone, you become the pole star so that you remain fixed. And not only that, your mother, Suniti, would also remain near you in the Swarga, that is in the heavens. Yeah, it is there are two stars actually, not near today's pole star. But if you see the older pole star, Thuban, near Thuban, there is another I Draconis, very close, and that is, of course, together. That is mother, that is Suniti, actually.
Yeah,
And
so that is
this,
incredible observational astronomy. So people
of
thought that.
course, absolutely. See, I won't call it observational astronomy. It is an observation of, I can say, cosmos. Their curiosity to know what is cosmos, what is Earth, what is Prithvi, what is Jyauh, what is Antariksha, what is all this, what does this mean, what does that mean. And these names are all which are given there. The Vedic gods, Mitra, Varuna. So there are two things. If you see that constellation, there are two bends because Sishumara is a something like a whale. Whale is a mammal. Whale has four legs, two front legs, two back legs, like flapping.
Yeah,
And
flippers.
here,
Yeah.
they are called legs only, four leg and the back leg.
Okay.
And it is exactly like that. It is exactly like that. That is the word which is used in the Puranas. Ashwinau Purva Padav, Mitra Varunau Apara Padav. So it is in Dvivachana, dual number. There are two, there are two. Then Pucham, it says. Now, whether it is like a whale, I said. Whether it is the same animal or some other animal, I don't know. But it is similar to that. They simply call it Sishumara, that's all. Now, there's a very long story for this. If you find out astronomically when this was possible, that was in 2850 BC. So that is in the third millennium. It was fixed. So plus or minus 200 years, people would have used that itself as the pole star. Say from about 3000 BC to about 2800 or something like that, approximate figure, because it's a very slow movement. Now, the key question is if really they observed precision, axial precision. In a single lifetime, it is not possible because for 1 degree variation, it takes 72 years. Human eye can recognize about 1 to 2 degrees. Less than that, it can't resolve. It looks fixed. So the key question is, how do you say that these people may not know the reason for precision, but they would have observed the effect of precision. That is also in the Vedas. That comes up in a text called the Maitrayaniya Upanishad. So in the Maitrayaniya Upanishad, the king by name Brihadratha, he goes to a Rishi and asks him questions, like in the Upanishad time. It is actually called the Maitrayaniya Aranyaka Upanishad. The Aranyaka and Upanishad are combined in that text.
Yeah.
So his worry, his doubt, his question is everything in this world is transient. I see that people are dying. My earlier kings, he gives 16 generations of kings Indradyumna, Pradyumna, and Bharata, Ambarisha. All these kings have gone away. The Chakravartis are no more. So 16 kings he names. Then he asks, the hilltops are all falling down. Now and then they suddenly fall down. Oceans are uprising. And the planets, he says Vataraju. Vataraju is the one which connects the planets. They're all going down. Not only that, Dhruvasya Prachalanam. Even Dhruva is moving. That is the sad part, he says. So he says, what is all this? Please tell me. I'm so much confused. Is there any meaning in life? That is his question finally. Okay. Shakayanya, the Rishi, preaches him Upanishad, Brahman, Prana, and all that. He also talks of what is time. So he says time is Suryo yonihi kalasya, he says. It is the sun who is the starting point for all kala. Now, what is kala? Kala comes from kala. Kala is division. We use it in different ways nowadays, but kala is a division. Time, divided time, what we call murta. Murta is specific time. The like nimisha, truti, masa, samvatsara, these are the kalas. He says all this kala is from sun only. Before sun, it was no time. It was akala because there was no division for time. And he says it's all continuous time, but we make divisions in time like this. And he also says during his time, the summer solstice happened in the Magha Nakshatra,
So this is the Maitrayaniya Upanishad.
Maitrayaniya Upanishad. He says, yeah, Magadhyam Shravishthardam, the mantra starts. The sun moves. There is only ayana there. There are nothing else. There are no masa. He doesn't give the month names or anything. He simply says, sun is moving from the beginning point of Magha, goes up to the half of Shravishta in his southern movement. And he comes back from Shravishta half to the end of Ashlesha in his northern movement.
So Ashlesha was in the northern solstice, and then Shravishta, half of Shravishta was the southern solstice.
Half of Shravishta was southern solstice, winter solstice. Beginning of Magha or end of Ashlesha was the summer solstice. So the same text, one place asks why Dhruva is moving. In another place, in another chapter, this is the information. Now somebody may say these two belong to different times. Possible. So I cannot say Brihadratha asked this question in 1800, but it is a lower bound. The lower bound is 1800 BC. So the upper bound for Dhruva be fixed was 2850 BC.
Right. So the Vedic times
Right?
definitely 2800 BCE, and then the
Yeah,
Maitrayaniya Upanishad recorded information of 1800 BCE, by which time the the North Pole has moved a little bit, and then also the solstices have changed.
correct, correct, true. There are also other information in the Vedic text about the movement of Dhruva because people question if Dhruva was really fixed, did they know about the movement? I mentioned one. In the yajna, yaga, and all this, you would have heard of them. There are what are called parts they have to give. Soma rasa parts. Soma rasa is supposed to be kept in that on. That will take us into a very different topic. I don't want to do that now because it becomes about yajna, yaga, what is their meaning. But they were all reflection of the astronomy, reflection of the sky. They were the astral reflections because there is
So
Agnishtoma in the Somayaga. In that, they have to collect cups. There are 9 cups. They are called a graha. Graha means which holds. It's a cup also which holds, captures, keeps. These are the meanings for graha. Now, there is a Dhruva graha, and then there are other 8 grahas. So, in that yaga, they keep the Dhruva graha in the north. All the other grahas are kept in the south, all the cups, so to say. And then they tell the mantra, same mantra, Dhruva Kshitihi, Dhruva Stomasi. For Dhruva, you are fixed and all that. And it is protected cup. So in those days, these yagas were protected by the kings. So it was actually a community kind of program where there will be protections for all these rituals also. So there it says the Rajaputra has to protect the Dhruva Graha. And there is a legend there. Why it has to be done like that? Because Asuras in the olden days, they wanted to turn the earth. Paryachikirshan it comes. So they wanted to turn the earth. So there was kept Dhruva in the north to fix the earth. Prithvim Paryachikirshan is the word which is used. And to prevent that this was done is what is said. And there is also a black magic procedure, abhichara, mentioned in one of the samhitas. If you want to see that a powerful man has to be displaced, you shift the Dhruva Graha, because the same thing happened in the sky. So here also you can do that. This is the principle. So they were displacing the presidents and the prime ministers even in the old days by these kind of things.
So what you said is important, right? So the Vedas themselves at the time of Yaska, which is probably 1000 BC, they knew that the Veda had to be interpreted in adi-devata, adi-yajna, and adi. So what you are saying is the adi-devata aspect is relates generally to the sky or astronomy. Is that a good understanding?
Yeah, you see, it is like this. We have, that is in India, I am telling, we means the Indian culture has such a treasure. That treasure is so deep and so dense. All aspects have not been understood, even to this day. To say that Sayana has said this, so I accept it, or somebody is doing it, so I do that, fine. Nothing wrong in it, because some people have understood it like that. That is how the culture has come. It is a filtering. So in the filter, we are living in a filtered culture. That is like a river, a long river which is flowing. I am in the downstream. People are in the upstream. There are some people are in the downstream. In the downstream, it is a filtered material which comes to me. So today I got the filtered material by Sayana, by Bhattavarsha, by Venkatamadhava, by Yaska, by others who are forgotten totally. Because Yaska himself mentions some 10 people name, Shakapurni and Kroshtik, several others who interpreted. We don't know what they did. So only from what Yaska has said, we know something. Yaska was clear that there are many of the mantras can be taken in three ways. That is Adi Yajna, Adhyatma, and Adi Daiva. And he gives examples of Adi Daivata interpretation. That Somo in the Adi Daiva meaning is Chandrama. Adi Daivata Paksha Somo Chandrama. Whereas in the Adi Yajna Paksha, Soma is an Aushadhi. That is a Mulika Vishesha. That is a herb. And in the Adhyatma Paksha, it is Manas. That comes in the Upanishads and all that. So there are three categories. Even in those days they had, That is how he understood. Now, if Soma is Chandra, it is astronomical. So we have to see, and he gives so many others, not only this. There is another case, very interesting and important, that comes in the seventh mandala. There is a mantra which says, Indra, in one stroke, one draught, he drank 30 lakes of Soma. In one draught, he together 30 lakes of Soma he drank. There are pages and pages of commentary on what can this mean and how is it possible. Indra is single devata. The reason is, in the notations of Vedic culture, the offering which is given to the devatas, depending on the number of devatas, that many offering has to be given. Like today also in our puja we do Panchapalam Nivedayami, 5 I give, 6 I give, 1 I give, kind of thing. For if it is a Dvidaivatya, I have to give in 2 cups. If it is a Daivatya, like Magha Nakshatra, has 6 stars. So in the Nakshatra-eshti, on 6 cups, Soma has to be offered. That means Swaha. They have to do that Swaha 6 times. Whereas for Shravishta, only 4 times it is done. So these notations are important. Indra is single. Has to be given only 1. Why here 30? But he has taken. So they say that during the Madhyandina Savana, that is the afternoon yajna, you have to offer in 30 cups Soma. Because the mantra says that. So Ashwalayana Sutra, Shrauta Sutra, these come in the Shrauta and other Kalpa text, not in the direct text. You have to offer in 30. Now Yaska says this. Adi Yajna Paksha, 30 cups you have to give. But in the Adi Daivata Paksha, it is Indra drinking Soma on moon in the Krishna Paksha. Drinking Soma is only the decrease of the illumination in on moon's orb in the Krishna Paksha. Now, how many he drinks? If you take only the night, it is only 15. He says, no, Morning also you have to count, because they knew that the decrease in phase, whether moon is visible or not, is continuous. So, and he also says, Indra drinking avichinna means, you may say, as a drunkard, he may say one draught he drank. That is different. Here it is avichinna means continuously. It
Without a
is not
break.
something goes and stops. No, it is continuous decrease. 15 morning, 15 night, that is 30. That is why you have to give 30. Adi yajna, you do 30, no problem. But in Adi Daivata Paksha, it means only this. This is the astronomy which is there in the Veda. Unless we recognize this, we don't get anything there.
The solstice, yeah, in the Maga. And then you've also written about the Darśapūrṇamāsa, right? This is very related to the movement of the moon also.
Of course.
Yeah.
Correct, correct. It is all connected with that. And that is all coming from the Rigvedic time. The observations are like this. And they always attributed an esoteric motive. They saw something beyond all this. They did not, 100% clear. They did not see like we see that it is a gaseous planet or it is diamond in Buddha or something. No, they don't. Maybe possible. But they saw all that as something expansive, something meaningful to the people on earth, because they consider earth and Dyauh together. So it is Mata, Prithvi, Pita, Dyauh, always for them. Unified kind of life. But they wanted to know meaning at every stage. And this is how it developed. But then, observing the sky, there are many others who took it in a matter of fact way also. That is how astronomy started. Whereas
So
originally
then,
it was kind of an esoteric astral observation. Slowly astronomy started. How many nakshatras are there? What is the length of the year? And if there is an eclipse happening, will the eclipse again happen? These questions are all slowly cropped up. There are references to disasters. That is, originally sky was seems to be very pleasant, peaceful. Such mantras are also there. Then there are mantras which says, don't get angry with us, particularly to Rudra. So the Rudra is hitting us, please don't hit us, and then do good to us, kinds of things. In seventh mandala and all those mandalas are there. Many of them. And Maruts. So it says Maruts originally killed people. Prajapati's creation was all destroyed by the Maruts. Then Prajapati once again thought about it and he recreated and all that. These all indicate kind of disasters, which may be kind of meteoritic showers or maybe cometary impacts. And these are all very fascinating topics. Today, there is so much of interest in this because there is a definition for Ashwa in Taittirīya Samhita. It says, the eye of the Prajapati fell down, Ashwayat. That is why it is called Ashwa. And that Ashwa is actually what is offered in the Ashwamedha. It is actually the eye of the Prajapati is what is said. If you go through the Rig Veda and the Yajurveda, you will see this. As a symbolically, they might have killed an actual horse. That is fine. But the original meaning was different. Probably there was a comet which broke in three or whatever, and one part fell down on earth. And that is how the Irina got formed in the Gujarat region. And there are mantras to that. Irine Nyuptaha Sita Santo Hridayam Nirdahanti Divya Angari Irine Nyuptaha, it says. Is the celestial fire fell down here in Irina. It burns my heart, it says, even though now it has become cold. And that is actually a disaster, according to me, because I have investigated. As I told you, my interest was originally earthquakes. So earthquakes happen even due to tsunamis, that is, earthquakes in the sea, or celestial quakes. Celestial quakes are actually comets breaking and asteroids hitting Earth. So these asteroids can go very deep into the Earth and they create tunnels. They go so deep, even up, sometimes up to the mantle level, and they make plumes out of it. and the craters which get formed, which are there even in US and other places, and the craters can be located. There are two craters in the Aravali region, which now NASA has dated to about 7000 BC or 7200 BC. This I had already written in my articles, and many others have also know about it. That is near the Luna River. Luna is now only a dry river. They call about is the Luna region. That used to be a tributary to Saraswati or whatever. It used to be called Lavanavati in Sanskrit in the world. So such things have happened. So our Vedic corpus, when we talk about Vedic texts, my interest is not just in the mantras. They are all important in meditation and understanding all that, but also about the physical geography of the country called Bharata. What has happened to my land? Because Bharata is what is praised in the Rig Veda, right?
Mm.
Bharatam Janam is Vishwamitra says so much, so proud of that. So we have to know that. And there are references where the devatas did a yajna in Kurukshetra. Kurukshetre Satramasata is the Maitrayaniya Samhita. And in the Kurukshetra, when they did the Satra, the western part became Maru. Maru
Mm.
is the desert.
There's a
It became the Maru. And that is a Utkara. Utkara is, there are double meanings. In Yajna, you need a Vedi, you need a Utkara, where you put the waste material. You need another thing on the Dakshina Agni, you need something on the other thing. There is a pun there. Both the celestial Yajna and what people would do here on the earth, both are mentioned there. So
yeah.
these are the things which attract me.
There is so much information, so I'm going to just recap, right? We started off
Yeah.
from the Vedic times, observations that were happened related to the North Pole. Then we also the change in the, they were also observed the solstices. Then we noticed about the moon in the Darśapūrṇamāsa yajna. Then I think one of the works you have done was related to the number 3339, right? Which
Oh,
was related to Darśapūrṇamāsa. Yeah.
yeah,
So I want
that,
to I want to kind of cover that and then move on to the more of the comets aspect of it. So please inform us about that number, specific number. What is so special about it?
see, the number 3339, it comes in the Rig Veda twice, first in the third mandala, then again in the 10th mandala. That is called the Sauchika Agni Mantra. That is 10.55. Trini Shata, Tri Sahasrani, Trimshachave, Navacha Saparyan, it comes like that. Now, this is described in great detail in Brihadratha and other ancillary texts. This is the number of Vishvedevas. So it's called the Vishvedeva Nivid. There are so many devas are there, is what it says. Now, there is a big question even in the Veda. How many gods are there? Is it one god, three gods, 33 gods? Sometimes they say Ekam Sadvipra Bahuda Vadanti also is there. But 33 is also there. Trayesh Trimshadvai Devaha, it says. Now, Yaskacharya says, very excellently, he says, that is the interpretation, adi-devata interpretation. He says, minimum three devas are needed. Prithvi, Antariksha, Dyauh. All others, adhikara visheshena bahuda bhavanti. Because they have different roles, the same become multiple. Like in an office, there is a director, there is a deputy director, there are clerks and others. It is the whole, single. Office is single, but these people are different. It is the office that is important, the divinity. That is what he takes it. So in that sense, if you see, 3339 is possible. Now in the Rig Veda itself, it is very cryptic. It says Agni was hiding somewhere and they brought this number of devas, went to Agni, brought Agni and kept him for a yajna. And that yajna is actually on a Purnima day. And the summit was Moon himself, was the summit.
So,
That is how it is a poetical description. Now, if you see the direct meaning of it today, because the moon turns red, there is a mantra further, it says, the bird which has no place to stay has come here today and it is red in color. So if it is a full moon eclipse, I'm sorry, it's a total eclipse, the color becomes red, copper red. That is known. Even today it is like that. So even though there it doesn't say it is a grahana in the modern sense, it is an eclipse. Now the Darshapūrṇa comes there. The Darśapūrṇamāsa that is in the Shrauta Yaga, which is done nowadays also. They don't know about eclipses today, if you see in the text which is available. But they use one Vedi that is called the Darshiki Vedi. You would have seen it as a like a shape which is like this, a curved shape
Yes.
between the Ahavaniya Agni and the Garhyapatya Agni. The Garhyapatya, which refers to the earth, is square. The Ahamaniya, which refers to the sky, is circle. Sky means actually heaven. In between is this Darshiki Vedi. No fire is kept on that. The fire is only on the Ahamaniya and the Garhapatya and on the Dakshinagni. In the center, there is no fire. I was always curious why there is no fire on this and what could be the relation between the 3339 number, which is in the Rig Veda, and the Darshapūrṇa Yaga. So I studied the Darshapūrṇa Yaga fully, completely. No reference anywhere other than telling the 3339 Vishwadevas are invited to the Darshapūrṇa Yaga. They are made to sit on that peculiar Vedi, which is the parabolic, hyperbolic Vedi. They are made to sit there. So I studied this in greater detail. What is their role? What do they do? And the Darshapūrṇa is done only on Purnima and after the Amavasya. Only 2 days it has to be done. It can't be done on other days. So only on those days they can do. So I was wondering if they did it on Purnima, they would have observed some eclipses. Because the tradition is it has to be done once a person starts Darshapūrṇa, he has to do it for 15 years or 30 years or maybe lifelong. He can't break it in between. So these mantras are also there. Why it is so and why it has to be done like that, and so many things are there. And the what mantras have to be uttered and all that. So I was so curious about it. But how to construct this Vedi? That is where mathematics comes into picture. Extraordinary mathematics in the Shulba Sutras, where he says how to construct this curve. It is, he has to take a rajju, a rope, then extend it on both the sides, draw a circle, and then remove part of the circle so that you get the shape. First, he draws a circle. That is what they did. But they did not give the area of that. I was curious. They have given the area of the Ahavani Agni, the Garhyapatya Agni, and the Dakshinagni. They are given the area. What is the area in terms of square angulas it is given? This they did not give. So I went back and calculated it myself with my simple thing of arc of a circle and what is the chord length and what is the area. And then found out what they might have wanted it. It comes to nearly, if it is constructed the way that in the Bodhayana Shulba Sutra it is said, it comes to nearly 3,330 angulas, which is very
This
near
is the
3,339.
this is the length of the curve in between the Ahvani and the
No, no,
Garhapatya.
no. It is the area of that figure.
Of the
It is
area of
the
the earth.
area of the figure, area of the peculiar figure, which is neither rectangle nor trapezium. It is a mixture of arc of a circle and some peculiar thing, like a bottled figure.
Yeah.
It looks more like an hourglass. Actually, that Vedi is used for other purposes. In other tantric practices, other Atharva Vedic practices, that as though it is a woman who is there, because the head is small, that portion, then as it comes, it becomes like this and all that. That's another matter. But the mantra which is said there by the Yajamana and all that, which is very peculiar, says, my ancient people, Purvaja, they were able to, with the help of this Vedi, keep Prithvi on moon. Now, Manasadhyayan aham karomi. Now I am thinking mentally, do that. That means he has to keep the Prithvi, Earth on the moon. What is meant by keeping Earth on the moon? It is a eclipse imagery, And the previous mantra says, why? Araruhu Vishena Alimpat. Sometime, Asura called Araru, he put a shadow and with some kind of poison, he covered everything of moon. So now I take the earth and keep it on the moon is what it says. So to me, it was clear it has to be an eclipse imagery. So this 3339, I always suspected it should be only an eclipse number. That became perfect in the Brahmanda Purana. Brahmanda Purana clearly says Devas come in Krishna Paksha. Each day they drink one bit of moon, one kala of. So that is what is meant by eating soma or drinking soma. This comes in the Shatapatha Brahmana also. Paurnamasyam Devaha Abhishunvanti Chandrama. It comes like that. But how many he doesn't say. In some texts it is there, in some it is not there. Brahmanda Purana is quite clear. That also comes in other Puranas, but there is some scribal error that Trishata, they have made it Trimshata, put a dot on the top. So it becomes, instead of 3000, becomes 33,000 there, if you see that. But anyway, that doesn't matter. If they come clearly only one kala in each paksha, you add the two. Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha together, it becomes 6,678. 6,678 day or tithi is 18 years. Because each year you take even 365, 366, it comes to 222.6 synodic months or 223 months. Now, it's very important because for the Babylonians, for Babylonian astronomy, 223 number is a very important number. That is how it is said they had their calendar aligned. Now, we don't have the number 223 as number in Vedic text or in Purana. We have a more basic number, more fundamental than 223, that is 3,339. You see how units develop. You have the basic one, 7 days, you will say, okay, becomes a week. We call it 1 week. So then you would say 20 weeks, 52 weeks kind of thing. You don't count in terms of 1 day, 1, 2, 3, 4. But in a more fundamental case, you would have done that 1, 2, 3, 4. Here they have done that 3,339. And it also means the meaning, it has been forgotten. The eclipse prediction based on it had been forgotten. But even today, you can use it. If you make this figure and keep it,
you can predict. So every 18 years,
every
eclipses
occur in the same nakshatra. See, I tell you what. It has to be actually practically done. We have tried and done that. You say that every Purnima where moon is rising, because they did Darśapūrṇa. So Purnima they would have known. Darsha is difficult, I agree, because Amavasya you don't see anything. Purnima they have seen. Rising of the Purnima in the east, say something to my right. Next Purnima, slightly it has shifted. The one next to that, it has still shifted. Next to that, it has still shifted. After some time, it goes to the extreme left. Purnima happens, but it is not happening on my right side, but it is happening on my left side. It is like the ayana I said for sun. Moon also has an ayana that comes up in the Mahasalila, Vriddha, Garga, Parasa, because they were astronomers. They gave more interest to that. In the way that these are cryptic, because they were interested in something else. And not all are remembered, in the Veda mantras also. Many things is lost. So with what is remaining, if you see they did like this, so how would they keep count of it? Always they use a pebble, because you remember in the fifth mandala of the Rig Veda, there is a solar eclipse called the Atri Mandala. There is a total solar eclipse. And in that he says, he says by combining the grava. Grava is stone. By combining the grava, he understood. Atri understood the eclipse is what he says. The grava they were using here also. So you keep a stone and you would see that you describe a figure, you get a figure which looks like this. Not a rectangle, not a square, because moon also has standstill. The solar standstill is very long, whereas the lunar standstill, there are two, the major standstill and the minor standstill. The major standstill happens far away on the two ends. Minor standstill happens little bit close with lesser declination. In terms of declination, if I had to talk. Now, the ancient people would not have known the declination. They would have known only the azimuth and the altitude, that is along the horizon, and how much high he has gone. There are mentions of all those things. So if the left, right, they have seen, they would have known this figure that moon has, even if you see in the sky, he would be having this kind of movement. It is not a direct east-west, nor a direct south-north, but a combination of these two. That locus of the moon or the orbit of the moon is the Darshiki Vedi, and the area of that is 3339, because if a full moon eclipse occurred in a particular nakshatra, Purvabhadra nakshatra, after 18 years, it will occur in the same nakshatra. The full moon eclipse will be there in the same.
So,
This is the basic principle with which calendars are developed. It is the sidereal cycle combined with this, with the synodic cycle.
this is amazing. So, incredible observation. The general thought was there was very basic stuff in the Veda, and then we always come up to the time of Aryabhata. But now, what you have said is, look, we have tremendous amount of observation, astronomical information within the Vedic text itself, starting the Samhitas, then all the Shulbha Sutra, then also Yaska, the commenting and telling us that these have to be looked at in three ways. Then the Maitrayaniya Upanishad, then the Darśapūrṇamāsa Yajna itself having this lunar collection. So this is tremendous astronomical information, and it shows increasing amounts of knowledge also, and then a mapping between the sky and what happens on the ground. So that is the more complete picture we have to look.
That is true. That is true. So you see, the Vedas, they could be understood only in a way to so to say. You just imagine how any subject can be stabilized. That means, let me take an example of music. Your music now, Tyagaraja or others, they created. How it is preserved? By a legacy, by others who took notes, who wrote it down. And when he was singing, he was not teaching. He sang on his own. He didn't care for others. And it is the same thing with many of the poets also. When he gets an inspiration, he simply sings. It is for the others to note it down and later edit it or correct it or whatever. Then repeat it and keep it, preserve it. Same thing here also. The Vedangas have preserved this to fix it. Now, in what way Rigveda has to be uttered? How it has to be remembered? You know the Kramapata, Padapata, Jatapata, Ganapata, and all that. If it is only like one shloka, like Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu, Mangalam Madhusudana, you can substitute other words there, get the same chandas. No, it is not like that. You can't substitute words. So they made everything very specific. So back and forth, A, B, C, A, B, B, A, B, C, C, B kind of thing, is permutation combination, because giving rise to mathematical patterns. These
Error
patterns, error correction happens, but error correction is the end result. What was the recognition was the pattern. It is in the Rigvedic pattern has to be maintained, the original Rigvedic pattern. Because Rigveda is not a single pattern. There are different chandas and there are peculiar names which are given. Like I told you, this 30 lakes of Soma being taken by Indra. So these are some of the peculiar things which are there. They are in different chandas. This is in Gayatri Chandas, this is some other Chandas. All those numbers have meaning because these were used for time measurement. The Rigvedic mantras were also used for time. That is another aspect because there can be no astronomy, even in a modern sense, without time. Time is the key. So, this is not what I am telling from a modern perception. They said it already. It is all Kala only. All these celestials, all this Srishti is because of Kala. It is there in Kala. There is nothing. It may be difficult to define Kala, but it is all Kala. So to preserve it in Kala, Kala has both the things. It can destroy, it can create, it can preserve. All the three had to be done. It is not figurative. I'm not bringing religion here. It is not Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara I'm bringing. And hence, the Vedangas become very important. So, you know the 6 Vedangas, see, Jyotisha, Niruktam, Tata, you know that. Kalpascheti, Shadangani, Vedasyahur, Manisha, Shiksha, Vyakaranam, Chanda. Now, Shiksha is available today. The Shiksha Grantha is available. Vyakarana, what is available? Only Panini. The ones prior to that are gone. We have no idea, but whatever is in Panini, we depend on that. And future Sanskrit is developed. Before that, how it was, you would simply say Arsha. It is archaic, it is due to the Rishis, you just leave it like that. Chandaha is there. Chandaha is what? It is not fully appreciated. We know the Halayudas, the Pingala, and all that, but it is not just prosody. It is something
Just not
deeper
just a
than
meter.
that. Is the cycles. It is cycles, which is not just uttering. It is beyond language. It is beyond language. That is why in this, if you see Samaveda, there is no language there. It is only the swara which is there. That is also Chandas. And what Samagas are called the Chandasa. They are called Chandasa because they are slow and all that. That is a byword for being slow is Chandasa traditionally. There is all Chandas one. That is the most important is that. So you go beyond language.
I mean,
There,
like,
there is a
yeah.
different Vyakarana. That is from their music has, yeah, that is from their music has come. And in Chandas, Kala is the most important thing. And that Kala measurement, you have to keep time. And it may be connected with your rhythm, your heart, your own perception, and you're combining with the universe. The whole thing is to see that we are in a whole universe. We are holistically in a universe sitting in. That holistic perception is what is being the ideology of Indian astronomy or Hindu astronomy, so to say. But in the Vedanga time, this came up, but they had to become practical. So you have to teach people. So how to utter these things, how to observe Darsha, how to observe Purnima, when you have to do it. So there were Nakshatra Darshas who were matter of fact astronomers who would observe and do this, but combine it with the older things. They were all Vaidikas only. And there the Vedanga Jyotisha started. But what is Vedanga Jyotisha? We have only Lagada's Vedanga Jyotisha as it is today. A few things. If you know the winter solstice day, that was in the Dhanishta Shravishta Nakshatra, how to find the Tithi, how to find in which Nakshatra sun is. There should have been something in between. Now, this Vridhagargiya Parashara, at least their original source was Vedanga. Today, Parashara, you quoted from Parashara Tantra. So, Parashara Tantra, the quotations are all from later writers, but it is all in prose and it all sounds Vedic. And that time is 1600 BC or 1300 BC. And they were interested in Agastya as a star. Now, Agastya, you see, not visible in United States, not visible north of 37 degrees, not in Rome, not in Lithuania, north of Kashmir, very difficult to observe. No, but on the latitude, if you are there in Egypt, you would have observed. That's a different matter.
Yes.
But in Rigveda, Agastya is a very important Rishi. And Agastya is also a star. So a new equation comes in.
Just to inform the viewers, Agastya is in the southern sky, right? So it's Canopus. So that's what we can see, and so it's seen from It's seen during specific periods from what is called the Brahmavarta or the Haryana Punjab area. Correct? That is the core area. And so from there they can see.
It could have been seen. So what I mean is, this observation could not have happened north of 37 degrees. It should only be south of that. These are connected with issues like, well, I don't want to bring any controversy, like Aryan invasion, whether Aryans came from Lithuania or from Russia, or things like that. Oh, you may say they might have come before and they might have, but observing this, it should have happened only in some particular things. Now, it is not a way of dating Rig Veda. It is a way of getting footholds for our past. You can't scale the whole thing. No, I don't say that I have scaled. No, I can get some footholds. These are specific points. Come, I will defend. We can discuss. That's what I can do. Before 5,000 years, were there no Vedas, or was there no people in Nar? I don't know. I can't say that.
Yeah.
But Agastya is an important Rishi, also becoming a nakshatra. Like the Saptarshis are also nakshatras. This is a kind of special astronomical lineage or culture, observational, also emotional, also religious, also spiritual, also cultural. So this astronomy is of that kind. Now, slowly this has changed its color. Over 1,000 years, thousands of years it has changed. But this variation itself is one of the evidences for the ancientness, like of the precision being experienced. They might not have known the reason that it rotates like this, Earth rotates, and all that. I don't know. At least the evidences are not directly available yet. The heliocentric nature and all that. Sun was the most important thing. Whether all went round sun, I think it had to wait till Madhava of Sangamagrama or so to say that even Shukra and Buddha are nearer to sun and things like that. It had to take time. And to say that Earth has a diurnal rotation, Aryabhata had to say, even though Brahmagupta resisted and he did not accept it. These things are all intellectual things, and we should be proud of that. But all this has come from that time. Questioning, answering, dissenting, difference of opinions, then coming back, verifying, coming to a conclusion.
So that's one of the interesting, even in Tantra Sandra, he says it should be observed. The sky is the, so he makes that
Correct.
statement. Yeah. So, sir, I think we are coming to the end of this episode. In this episode, we have covered a lot of the Vedic tradition, starting from the North Pole, the Dhruva Nakshatra, and so that the Vedas know of the older Dhruva, which was Draco. So the Sishumara constellation. So we know that. And then, of course, it changes over a period of time. Then we saw all the information related to conducting the yajnas, the movement of the sun, the movement of the moon. So all this information, then we come to almost Vedanga Jyotisha of Laghada, right? 1600 BC. So in the next episode, we'll cover all the details. We'll go into details and then come up to times of Aryabhata. So thank you very much, sir. At this point, we will end this specific episode, and then we'll pick it up from Parasharata, Vruddhagarga and Parasharatantra in the next recording that we have. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will also say something about the Mahasalila in the next episode.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.